Hello everyone and welcome back to some more Marvel Crisis Protocol for the channel, and in today's 17 threat match the Hellfire Club are taking on the Avengers, featuring some of the characters from the newest starter box as well as some of the new wave, or exactly one model from the new wave of X-Men releases, so we'll take a look at that as well. So here is the Hellfire Club. It is the Hellfire Club because of one of the tactics cards being brought, which makes Emma Frost be the leader, gives her access to her affiliation bonus, which is once per round. She can choose to activate it. If she does, all her teammates that are currently contesting or holding an objective gain 1 power, heal 1 damage, and all of her teammates that are not in that situation take 1 damage, lose 1 power, and that goes to her instead. So if she wants to be selfish, she can, and as I say, it's a once per round, not once per turn. For her Hellfire Club, she's brought along Rogue, she's brought along Psylocke, Toad has somehow been convinced to join them, and the new one on the table from the newer X-Men wave release is Iceman. He's got Fire and Fade, which, sorry, that's 40k. Freeze and Fire is the name of his skill, which is essentially hit and run, just with a different name. It's slightly different in that he can go over any scenery because he counts as size 5, but that's about it. His key thing though is his passive called Cold Snap. Any enemy that ends a move or an attack action, the latter of which I think is very important, within 2 of him receives the slow status. If they already are slow and his basic attack does slow, they take damage instead. So he can kind of do a lot of just chip damage just by kind of hanging around. He punishes those who want to get in close. And their tactics cards today, if we just move the camera ever slightly, although they are a bit shiny, my Hellfire Club is the thing that makes them that. We have Psionic Constructs, we have Advanced R&D, we have Crimson Dawn, and from the Iceman box we have Untapped Potential, which is a combination card between him and Emma. And just 4 miniatures making up the Avengers this time, getting them to 17 threat. They're being led by Captain America. I believe this one's suffix is the first Avenger. He is the Captain America from the Earth's Mightiest core box, aka the newest starter box. His affiliation bonus is different to the old one. I'm not sure if it's as good. I guess it depends who your teammates are. During the modified die step, you can pay 1 power as long as you got at least 1 hit to change a different die to any other result. So if you want to guarantee a wild to get like a proc on a status effect or a special effect, that's good for that, as long as it's remembered. Bringing along the old Thor, the new Winter Soldier, and the new Invincible Iron Man, I think this is called, also from the new core box. So is this version of the Winter Soldier. And their tactics cards are, if we just go down here a little bit, Avengers Assemble, third version of this card to exist I think. This is the one from the Earth's Mightiest core box. Second Wind, Overcharge, Repulsor, Refraction, and also Advanced R&D. And here's the 2 Crisis cards being played. The threat value is on the the Extract rather, which is Struggle for the Cube. You know this one, it's the 5 cube fragments, 1 VP for each one held. You can hold multiple, they give you extra power, but they also hurt you as well. So 5 VP up for grabs on that one. And the other one is Superpowered Scoundrels form Sinister Syndicate. It's the 5 ambush tokens. You get cover as long as you're contesting an ambush token if you're attacked by anyone who is also not contesting the same ambush token as you, and that's 5 VP on offer from there as well. So that is a lot of VP potentially scoreable each round. Obviously both sides don't have enough bodies to do all, well I guess technically the Hellfire Club do as long as they're incredibly efficient. The Avengers don't, and both use the exact same deployment type. So if we just pull back a little bit here, you can simply see they're slightly off center just to show that they are on top of one another, but the cube fragments are exactly in the same places as the ambush tokens. So we'll roll off for who's picking what side they're on, etc. Things like that, get the first power phase all ready to go, and be back at deployment after this brief word from my channel sponsor. This video is sponsored by Noble Knight Games. Check out the video description below for an affiliate link that will take you through to their store, and it will help me out as well. Thanks. And just like that, we're back with the Hellfire Club to your left, who will be taking first activation in round 1, and the Avengers on the right of your screen. You can see Thor just to the bottom right of your screen. The rest are in a line to the top right of your screen. Then over here we have Toad inside the crater, Rogue, Iceman, Psylocke, and then just visible up there by the ruined building is where Emma has started. So I think that about covers it. Let's jump in and see how this goes with a lot of VP on offer. It's just down to how many each side can grab up. Toad hopped his way into getting the battle started by moving medium forwards, getting just within one of the secure there, which is the Sinister Syndicate whatever it is, ambush token, that's the one they use, and paid 1 power to pick up the Q fragment. So he's now holding that. He has an unused action. He isn't going to do anything with it. He's staying hidden there, trying to stay out of a potential Thor's threat radius. Iron Man was first up for the Avengers, flying up over the red car there, getting just within one of the central ambush token, paying 1 power and picking up the Q fragment that was there as well. It does kind of put him in the crosshairs of potentially 3 people, but snatching up that odd-ended Q fragment might make the difference in terms of the point swing for the end of the first round. Iceman moved up for the Hellfire Club, which I guess is kind of ironic, ice and fire, either way. His basic attack is called Freezing Blast. It's a beam 3, only 4 dice, but does slow on a wild, generates 1 flat power for every person hit, regardless of whether it does damage or not. He was looking to apply the slow to Tony, is actually what he wanted. He did pretty well with the roll. Tony has damage reduction down to a minimum of 1. He also had cover for being within contesting range of that ambush token, whereas Iceman was not. So whichever way you cut it from both those advantages, the damage got reduced down to just a single point. And didn't even get the status effect he wanted, so not super great there. A simple activation for Bucky followed as the Winter Soldier activated, moved up medium, staying just within 1 of the closest ambush token and paying his 1 power to pick up the Q fragment that was there. He's wasting an action, doesn't want to move anywhere, so doing nothing else, same as Toad. She's moving from cover to cover to avoid the camera getting a good look at her, but Emma activated and moved up medium right next to the ambush token that's obscured by the ruined building to the bottom right of your camera right now. Paid 1 power, picked up the Q fragment that was there, and is also doing nothing else with her other action. She's staying out of threat range. I guess with her activating now, it also means that she's not going to be activating her affiliation bonus this round, because it would end up hurting too many people. She doesn't really need the power yet anyway. Thor moved up his medium move, paid 1 power to pick up the Q fragment next to the ambush token he's now contesting, and Toad was not saved from his range 5 hammer throw, so he paid the other power he starts with, being in his Guardian, to chuck his hammer. Obviously Toad was getting cover because they're contesting different ambush tokens, so they don't get the bonus, or rather they get the negative. And Toad fully blocked, but it still does do shock whether it hits or not, so he has been afflicted with that, and it will affect any attacks he does going forwards unless he shakes it. Next up was a very aggressive repositioning by Rogue, using both her movements to just charge down the table medium twice, putting her right where you can see her. I guess she is the designated person to try and deal with Thor, so she is going after him. I mean, she can steal power from him, so that is a start, and she is pretty tough against physical attacks, which is mostly what he does unless he's chucking his hammer. So yeah, she's probably the best bet, and she's going right on in there, so we're going to see them tangle next round probably. And the final activation of the first round for the Avengers was Steve Rogers. Much like the other versions of Steve, this one is also a medium move. He did 2 movement actions, however his second one was cut short. He made sure to not get within 2 of Iceman when he stopped. He didn't want that slow condition, because that might actually lead to damage and being taken passively going forward. So he stopped just shy of going his full second movement. He's still contesting the central ambush token though, and is getting the cover bonus from it against attacks from outside of it. That's our turn done though. It's over to Psylocke now to end off the round entirely. So Psylocke moved up medium, and then she used her Psy Bow 4 dice, range 4 Mystic on Iron Man, just hoping to chip off some more damage from what Iceman started early in the turn, but appalling attack roll, 1 success, and very easily blocked. So that takes us to scoring now. So at the end of the first round, despite having only 4 bodies compared to 5, the Avengers actually managed to keep the swing in their favour for both Crisis cards. The Q fragments, they have 3, 1 on Winter Soldier, 1 on Thor, 1 on Iron Man, and they also hold 3 of the ambush tokens, the centre and then the 2 closest to their deployment side of the table, so that took them to 6 victory points at the end of turn 1, which is really impressive. The Hellfire Club, they've got a Q fragment on Toad, they've got a Q fragment on Emma Frost, so that's 2 victory points gained there, and they hold the 2 ambush tokens closest to them on those same characters. So that took them to 4. They're behind by 2 as we go into round 2. They retain first activation though, and because it's Q fragments, as we roll round into the power phase, or I think it's at the end of the cleanup phase, either way it doesn't matter, yeah, it's cleanup phase. They all gain 1 extra power for those Q fragments, but those who are holding them also take 1 damage, so it brings them that little bit closer to getting dazed. With that, let's move into the setup for round 2. So round 2 for the Hellfire Club got started with Iceman activating, and New Model Syndrome is very much on display here. I guess New Model Syndrome goes two ways: either the new model on the table just gets wiped out instantly by the enemy spiking, or they have like performance anxiety, I guess, where they just don't quite do even the bare minimum, and unfortunately it's the latter in this case. He paid 2 of his up to 3 power, or was, to do Freeze and Fade, which is a hit and run basically. He did his beam 3 on Iron Man again, got 1 success, which was blocked. But he gets to do a free move built into that, so he moved forwards, putting him where you can see him. Then he did another beam. He couldn't position himself such that he would catch Iron Man and Cap in any way, so he just went for Iron Man again, and his attack roll had 0 successes on that one. So, not great. The only thing he's got going for him is if Cap and Iron Man stay there and do attacks, his passive will proc, because it's not just ending move actions within 2 of them, it's doing attack actions within 2 of them. So he's kind of forcing them to abandon the center unless they want slowed and then damage on top of that. Would have been perfect if he'd actually applied slow with his basic attack, but apparently rolling a single wild on 4 dice across, that's 3 attempts now? 4 attempts? No, 3, is just impossible. Well, if that didn't confirm New Model Syndrome, this certainly did. Iron Man was first up for the Avengers. He spent his 3 power on $1 billion punch to smack Iceman right in the jaw and got him for 5 damage, which took him from full health to dazed in a single $1 billion. I mean, it is a very expensive punch, I suppose, but still. So that is Iceman dazed. He did do it well within 2 of them, though, so he has received the slow effect. And for his second action, he moved away down to slow speed, but still just moving away so that if Emma or Psylocke want his Q fragment, they're going to have to chase him a little bit. But he's got no power left, so there was no second wind play to make here or anything like that. But yeah, poor Iceman, just, that's him dazed. Rogue activated for the Hellfire Club next, moving right into Thor's face around that ambush token they both were next to. She used her Absorbing Strike, 5 dice physical, well, you can choose it to be physical or energy. She saps power on a wild, and she got 2 wilds, so she sapped 2 strength, or 2 power rather, from Thor before anything else happened, and that's how much power he had on him. So that was completely gone. Then managed to get him for 2 damage on top of that, so that's pretty decent. She spent 3 power, because she now had quite a bit to play with, on Marvelous Strength to pick Thor up and throw him into a lamppost, which means the lamppost gets destroyed, and he took another 1 flat damage from that as well. So pretty decent turn for her, unlike certain other mutants. Captain America activated next for the Avengers, ending up to the top right of your screen there. But first, from where he was, which was roughly there, he did his shield bounce, 5 dice, range 3. He did it into Psylocke. She's got stealth, but he was within range 3, so you could see her. Bounced it into her head, paid 1 power to make use of his affiliation bonus, also to change a block into a wild, which meant he had hits and wilds, which meant it would bounce because he wanted it to bounce around and hit Emma upside the head as well. Managed to very consistently get both of them for 2 damage each. So pretty decent there. He then has retreated from the central ambush token over to where Bucky and Tony are. Little Toad down there, but it's not doing much. Activate. He repositioned ever so slightly. In fact, he's trying to be as far away from Thor as possible. He can definitely be a little bit further back because range 1 is fine. We'll measure that properly in a second. But he repositioned ever so slightly. He's burning his other activation, but they are choosing at this point to activate the White Queen's Pawns, which is the Hellfire Club's affiliation bonus. You can do it at the end of any allied character's activation. Emma Frost chooses to use it. Her allied characters who are contesting or holding objectives gain 1 power and remove 1 damage. So in this case, Toad and Rogue have both gained 1 power, and Toad has healed the 1 damage on him. Rogue's still at full health. But for every allied character not holding or contesting an objective, in this case Psylocke takes 1 damage, loses 1 power, and Emma gains those. So Emma has gained 1 power and also healed 1 damage on her. Now, it might have been better to wait until Thor kind of got his payback against Rogue, so she heals off of this as well. But Emma's trying to set up a big play for either this round or the next round by just accumulating power. Well, knowing full well that there's no way for Rogue to heal currently, Thor did decide to activate at this point, and started by spending 3 on For Asgard, which is his version of charge, move followed by strike, did that into Rogue, paid 1 for the affiliation bonus as well. I think, oh no, it was on the second one he paid 1 for the affiliation bonus. Managed to do 1 whole damage to her after her damage reduction kicked in. Next turn now, he did another basic strike right into her, this time doing 2 damage, paid for the affiliation bonus to get a wild because he wanted the throw. So 2 damage from her, and then yes, he could have chucked her into some scenery for an extra 1 point of damage. He opted to chuck her down the street instead, so no impact damage at all, just to force her to come back, basically. to try and buy time. So in total, Rogue took 3. I don't remember. I think she has 5 on her healthy side. But either way, he's back in position now as being the only one holding this ambush token. Psylocke moved into position in the centre of the board to hold that ambush token there, and then spent 3 on her spender, Psionic Assault I think it's called, range 3, so she went into Tony, 7 dice, Mystic, and before damage is dealt you do stun, which is pretty nice. So Tony was stunned. All in all, he took 3. Oh, actually, his damage reduction means he actually only took 2, never mind. So I was going to say he was left on 1 health. No, that's actually 2 damage, forgot about that. So he's 2 away from getting dazed. He is hanging in there. Oh, no, never mind. This version of Iron Man, you have to pay for the damage reduction. It isn't just built in. So he didn't have any power to pay for it, so he did take the full 3 damage. So yes, he is now 1 away from being dazed. And it was over to Bucky to end off round 2 for the Avengers. He moved position slightly because he had to get within range 3 to actually attack Psylocke, which was his intended target. He's not really looking at her, but that's the way he was attacking. He does have range 5 on assault rifle, but as I say, she has stealth. So 5 dice physical on wild saps power, but she didn't have any power to be sapped. And all said and done, with the cover from being in the ambush token, she only took 1 damage, which means she's still standing. I think she's at 4 damage of her 6 now. And it's over to Emma Frost to end off the round entirely. Well, Emma Frost certainly got some work done. She moved into position, still within 1 of the ambush tokens she's at, then spent 4 power, I think, on her hands off, which is her big spender, with Defenstrate on a wild, which she did get. She did it into Bucky, although this Bucky does actually have decent Mystic defense of 4 as opposed to 2 on his other version, I think. Either way though, she got the wild, which means before damage is dealt, he can be thrown. He was thrown into Iron Man, which dazed Iron Man. Now he was dazing at the end of the round anyway, but this way he doesn't score a point first, and he dropped the Q fragment he was holding. The attack itself spiked pretty hard against poor Bucky, who didn't roll a single defense successfully on 4 dice. So he took 5 and went with the damage he took from holding the Q fragment over turn 1 from healthy to dazed, because he has 6 health. So he is dazed and he dropped his cube fragment before it could score as well. Both of them have been placed within distance of Iceman and Psylocke. So Emma did really well there, took the 2 of them out. Cap's still holding that token over there, so they're still going to be getting points, but that does mean we're ending the round with 2 of the 5 Q fragments on the floor. Well, everything changed with that round, especially with those 2 Q fragments being on the floor. The Avengers, they still scored 1 Q fragment related point on Thor, although that is also now his 5th point of damage. But at least they got a victory point. They also hold 2 of the 5 ambush tokens, so they gained a total of 3, taking them up to 9. Hellfire Club, they've got a Q fragment on Toad, they've got a Q fragment on Emma Frost, so they've gained 2 there, and they hold 3 of the ambush tokens. Toad's holding 1, Emma's holding 1, and Psylocke is holding 1. So they have caught up, and it's all even Stevens, 9 victory points apiece as we go into round 3 now, but the Avengers are now taking first activation. So we'll see if that makes any kind of a difference here as we move on. And again, everyone who is conscious and holding a Q fragment is gaining 1 extra power, but also taking 1 damage. As we're setting up for round 3, or about to start for round 3, I think we realised at the end of round 1, it should have been the Avengers going first in round 2, right? Because it was 5 and 4, but the team with 5 went first. So I think we absolutely missed that, and the Hellfire Club should not have gone first in turn 2. It's really hard to say how much of a difference that would have made. I think that was Iceman who activated first, and he had a whiff of a turn anyway. He may have done something different had he gone second, but it's obviously too late to go back. It's just something we think that has been missed and or done wrong. Just totally whiffed on that, but going forwards, obviously try and get it right. So with that correction made, round 3 started. Iron Man activated. He moved adjacent to both Q fragments, paid 2 power, and picked them both up. He then used his basic repulsor into Psylocke, hoping to maybe take her out. The nice thing about this version of Iron Man's repulsor, MK2 I think it is that if you do no damage, you still get 1 flat power, which is what he took advantage of because he did no damage to Psylocke. Avengers Assemble was played, who are on this version of the card. Any number of Avengers can pay 1 to play this card. Characters that spent that can advance small. He and Cap both paid 1 power, so Iron Man kind of fled to that back ambush token, and Cap has decided to go directly to face Emma because Emma doesn't have much health left on her healthy side. So trying to provide a problem to deal with rather than going after Iron Man, who, if he's sitting on that ambush token, is currently worth 3 victory points. Rogue was up for the Hellfire Club next, moving in with a charge and Southern Hospitalities for a total of 7 power spent, I think. Or maybe just 5, I can't remember how much Southern Hospitality is. But charge plus that, 7 dice physical into Thor, including the movement action first. And she got 3 damage through in general, and then his defense roll of 4 dice equaled 0 successes, so all of it hit him, and he had 2 health left on his healthy side. So he's dazed. She then paid 1 power to pick up the cube fragment he was holding. Now, as it turns out, she kind of wasted that charge because there's nothing really to do with her second action. Quite comfortable holding that end of the table. She's now gaining 2 victory points, and she can still stay there to pick on Thor once he's flipped his cards. So she's just burning that other activation. Captain America activated for the Avengers and announced a shield bash into Emma, so she's paid 1 to diamond form, changes into her diamond form, her physical defense and energy defense go way up, and she gets to count blanks as successes on mystic attacks as well, I believe. Either way, it was just pure physical from Captain America, obviously. So the first shield bash into her did nothing. He was trying desperately to get 1 power out of that, so then he could do his big spender. That failed, so what he did instead was pay for a charge and then just did another shield bash after moving into position so that she wasn't getting the cover bonus as well, because before he was outside of the ambush token. This time he managed to get 3 damage through despite her being in diamond form, which was enough to daze her, and he had 1 power left over, which he has paid to pick up the cube fragment she was holding. So that's a pretty nice turn of events. The Avengers are pretty comfortably holding the upper end of the table, but the lower end, with Thor dazed, very much belonging to the Hellfire Club. Meanwhile, near the centre of the table, Psylocke activated and Bucky was just within range too, so she used her telekinetic strike, I think it's called, something like that. It can be mystic or energy. She chose energy because his energy defense is only 3. First one did 3 damage to him, but swings and roundabouts, the second one was fully blocked. So that's it. She's very close to dazing, and it is over to Bucky as the final activation for the Avengers of the round, although he could technically pass because Iceman and Toad haven't gone yet. Bucky did opt to activate, starting with his big spender, the Red Agent, 7 dice physical into Psylocke. She took 4, reduced down to 3 because of the cover of the ambush token, but she only had 2 health left, so that did daze her. He had a wild, he paid for the wild actually with the cap affiliation bonus, so that meant that suppressive kicked in and Iceman took 1 from that. He then paid for a hit and run, just shot his assault rifle into I keep wanting to say Iron Man, into Iceman, managed to get 2 more damage on him, so that's 3 in total on him, and then he fled his medium move to where you can just about see him at the top of your screens up here, just trying to stay in the fight really. Well, we can cover the Hellfire Club's last 2 activations just as a wonder, because Toad is just sitting down there doing what Toad does. He is gaining victory points, sitting on a back objective, and he's gaining 2, so he's doing his job. Iceman, he moved ever so slightly to here where you can see him. He's still holding that central ambush token because they want that point difference in the spread, but that did barely put him in range 3 for Iron Man. Did his basic 4 dice, managed to hit him, just impossible for him to roll a wild apparently, did 1 damage, no slow effect, and that takes us to scoring. So at the end of round 3, this is exciting. This is going to come down to a photo finish final round. The Avengers have 3 cube fragments, 1 on Cap, 2 on Iron Man, so Iron Man's going to be taking 2 more damage, but that gains them 3 victory points. Cap is also holding an ambush token, as is Iron Man and Bucky. So the latter 2 are holding the same one. So that takes them up to 14 of the 16 required to win. The Hellfire Club, they have the other 2 cube fragments, 1 on Rogue and 1 on Toad. They hold 3 of the ambush tokens. They hold the centre with Iceman, Toad is holding 1 back here, and Rogue is currently holding the one where Thor is about to wake up. So that also takes them to 14. As we go into round 4 with the Avengers going first, it is everything to play for. Both sides just need to get 2. I think that's going to happen. It's just going to be who pulls out to the front, like who goes beyond 16 by the most is going to win this in the next turn. So round 4 got started with an absolutely epic activation by Thor, but first, forgot to cover, in the power phase, Crimson Dawn was used by Psylocke. She pays 3, and when she flips her card, and gains access to this passive that moves her around within 1 after every action and gives her healing factor 1. It probably won't end up mattering. Second Wind has also been used by the Avengers at this point, and it was Cap and Iron Man who paid 1 to heal 1. Simple as that. Anyway, Thor. This is what happens when you make him angry. He goes from Love and Thunder Thor to Ragnarok Thor. He paid for Asgard, moved to where you can see him. Now, it does mean he's holding no ambush tokens, but decided that was worth it, and in the end it proved correct. Did a basic strike into... who was it? It was into Rogue. Yes, and it spiked. It went into Rogue and did 7 damage, down to 6 because of her Kree physiology. Paid to get an extra hit in there using Cap's affiliation bonus, but the initial roll, I believe, was 4 crits and a hit. Or 3 crits and a hit, and then the 3 crits also converted to at least 2 more. Something like that. It was ridiculous. And as I say, he paid for getting 1 more guaranteed success as a wild, just in case he needed to use the throw. As it turns out, he didn't, because she whiffed her defense roll. So that dazed her, and meant that he could move here with the For Asgard move, where he unleashed God of Thunder and absolutely obliterated Iceman, shattering him with a casual 7 damage. So, new model syndrome, there he goes. He's off the table. Got Psylocke for 4, but she's still on the table, gets shocked from the effect. It denies him an activation, it puts Psylocke close to being removed off the table. Rogue had a cube fragment, he paid 1 power to pick that up, and I think he's still got a couple of power left over because he was sitting on 9 or 10. So he did really well there, and that's what happens when you make him angry. He stepped up, and also denying Rogue activating as well is probably game changing. We'll see. Well, the Hellfire Club saw their Hail Mary play as taking down Iron Man, not even necessarily picking up the cube fragments he's holding, but denying him them. So Psylocke activated, she paid for, what was it called? It is called Telekinetic Precognition, I think. She is allowed to make a move, and then her next telekinetic katana gets 2 dice, so she was going to do 7, but she walked into a trap by going after Tony, because the Winter Soldier, Bucky, spent 3 on Killbox. When an enemy character finishes a move or is placed within 4 of him, he pays 3, picks something within 2 of them, in this case the car just barely, explodinates it, and then they act as if they've just suffered a collision from it. She blocked 1, took 2, and that killed her. So, unfortunately, Psylocke, just a hook, line, and sinker, just fell for that trap. That probably is going to be game. Now, Emma could still absolutely take out Tony, but with the number of bodies on the table, Toad's just going to sit on the back objective and gain 2, which does take them to the 16. But as things still stand, if Emma was somehow able to take out Tony and Steve, then they've still got a chance. But it's not her turn yet, it's over to an Avenger first. So Bucky activated, and all he did was just target saturation really. He moved into the middle to hold that ambush token, so that means they're gaining a victory point there unless Toad goes after him, which in turn would be denying themselves a victory point because he leaves the one he's on. So it does really come down to, can Emma somehow find a way to take out Tony and Steve? Let's see if it's possible. Going to ponder on it now and see what she does, and then it's basically game after her activation unless something miraculous happens. Well, she tried her best. She decided to focus down Steve because if she could daze Steve, she'd be denying 2 for him holding a cube fragment and him holding that point because she's on her daze side already, and gaining 2 because she'd pick up the cube fragment and be holding that ambush token, which might have swung it to draw again. As it is though, she smacked him in her diamond form for 3 damage, which is pretty good. Then she had enough to shatter, which is her big spender in her diamond form. It does revert her back to normal, but we're finishing the game, so it doesn't matter really. 7 dice physical. Steve paid for perfect defense to roll 6 defense dice and only took 2, so he stayed on his feet by exactly 1 health. Now, as I'm not 100% convinced that even if he'd went down it would have made a difference. Well, we can certainly count up the scores soon. She's done. Technically, yes, Toad could maybe go daze Bucky, but he's given up a point in order to do that. Bucky's not holding a cube rather, so it doesn't really balance out. Toad earns more by just holding the bottom corner of the map, so I think we're going to call it there and just see how the scores have panned out. Yeah, so looking at the points, largely thanks to Thor remembering he's a god and just going absolutely nuts on them, it was a comfortable win in the end for the Avengers because they currently hold 4 cube fragments, 1 on Thor, 1 on Cap, 2 on Iron Man, and Cap holds ambush token because he's healthy, Iron Man holds 1, and Winter Soldier holds 1, taking them to 20. The Hellfire Club, they have a cube fragment on Toad. Toad is holding an ambush token, and that is it. Which means they only go, they score the 16, which is required to win, but the Avengers scored 20, which does mean that even if the difference of 2 had been made by Emma taking out Cap, that would have put them down to 18. Then they would have gained 2, so it would have been a draw because they would go down to 18 and Hellfire Club would go up to 18. So yeah, if she had managed to do that 1 extra damage to Cap, it would have been completely even at the end of the game, 18-18. because of that last bit of damage that didn't get through, Avengers win. So with that, well, hoped we'd see Iceman do more, but new model syndrome, what can you do? It wasn't even that he was picked on, he just could not roll any wilds in any attack he ever did, and the Avengers knew to stay out of range 2 of him. In a more central focused mission type, he would definitely do better, like Gamma Shelters, I'm thinking, like, you know, something where there is that big brawl in the middle, or the portals, the Dormammu portals that are the other way around. He would excel at that, where you have to stay around him, rather than being able to kind of skirt around him and attack at range 3. So yeah, he didn't do well with his dice rolls, and he wasn't given the ideal opportunity with the objectives being played. Didn't really get a chance to see the tactics card with him and Emma Frost either. It lets him spend her power to do attacks and add 1 to his dice rolls. If he'd ever had a nice beam, there would have been a chance to use it, I think. But it didn't crop up, so bit of a shame there. But either way, thank you very much for watching. I sincerely hope you enjoyed. Please do remember to show your support if you want to see more, and if you're willing to go above and beyond and can spare it to help keep the channel afloat, I'd appreciate if you press the thanks button, became a channel member, which does give you access to videos early, including this one, if you were a channel member at the point it was posted. Or you can check out the channel sponsor. If you do that and buy something via the affiliate link, I get compensated, so we both get something out of it, and that would be very nice. Either way, enjoy the rest of your day, and see you in the future for more. Until then, ta-ta for now.